Alright guys, what is going on? Got a new video. Wanted to talk about one of the biggest things that I'm changing on the truck. And one of those things that we're changing on the truck is something that we've had on for quite a while. We've been cross country with it twice and it served us well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There's some like minor complaints I have about it, but those that guessed that we're getting rid of the RCI rack, you guessed correctly. And you're probably wondering, well, why are you getting rid of the RCI rack? You didn't talk about it in any of the videos. You didn't say anything about wanting to get a new rack. And honestly, like, we really didn't need a new rack. Basically, I sold an Adaleaf to a friend of ours in the Ranger group. Selling the Adaleaf, he pulls up in his truck, and I noticed he has a rack that I'm like, it looks super clean. I've never seen that type of rack before. I've seen the Rego Fab. I've seen the Z Rhodes. Obviously, I have the RCI rack, and I'm throwing pictures up as I'm talking about these. There's also the Lightner rack, which is like the most expensive out of the entire bunch. But, you know, when he pulled up with this rack system, I'm like, well, that's really clean. He had a ton of cover on it. So meaning he had the ability to close the bed of the truck off with a ton of cover. He had a decent amount of height. But the most interesting thing about the rack system, the company is called Xtrusion Overland. Here is their name on Instagram. Give them a follow. It has T-channels along the entire rack. And if you're not familiar with T-channels, it's very similar to like the Prinsu rack that I have on top of the truck. And you guys, those of you that know me know I don't typically, like, I like to modify things. I like to add things onto the truck. I like to change things up based on like what trip we're going on. I like to add different things onto the rack. And one of the biggest downsides of the RCI rack is you're really limited to what you can put on the rack because of the side shields. There's only specific holes. So let's do this. Let me go ahead and get in the truck and go ahead and turn it around. Let me turn the lights on so you can kind of see the RCI rack as it sits today on my truck, because the Extrusion Overland rack arrives tomorrow. So yeah, let me get the truck moved and we'll start talking about it. All right, guys, I got the truck backed up and I got the lights on. So sorry this isn't during the daytime. I've been really busy at work and getting stuff done around the house. So let's go ahead and open up everything so I can show you what the rack looks like. Try not to hit Julie's car here. Out of all the folks that have RCI racks, I haven't really seen many folks modify their RCI racks the way I have. So let's go ahead and kind of go over what we have going on. Remember when I was saying that you're kind of limited on the RCI rack as far as what you're wanting to put on? You're really limited on the rack, on the sidebar, or on the side panels of the RCI rack. You have like some small channels where you can put bolts through, but for the most part you're kind of limited to what you can install, where you can install it, and how you can install it. Because if you take those side plates off the RCI rack, you don't have anything to mount things to. So before we start getting into one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to go with the Extrusion Overland rack, let me get out of the way first and say that the RCI rack, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. They did update their clamp styles. If you do want to run a ton of cover, they can run a ton of cover on this with the new clamp system that they have. I did not purchase the new clamp system. I'm running their traditional C clamps, which they work, and they worked pretty well for the time we had them. But there are some downsides to the C clamps that I noticed over time. This is not specific for the Ranger, right? So this is a universal rack. This is the 12-inch rack system from RCI, purchased through Stage 3 Motorsports. So yeah, there's been a lot of more custom things done to it, like the third, or the the light system for this rear chase bar that has the brake lights and turn signals, that had to be custom bolted into the brackets that are up there. As of right now, I'm running these 4 light pods on the corners of the rack. Now, if you take a look here on the rack, those L brackets, these L brackets I fabbed up from Home Depot. It's just a custom little bracket system that I was able to mount these lights to, and luckily I was able to mount them to an existing hole in the rack. It works. It's not bad. It does what, you know, it's intended to do. However, the Extrusion Overland rack has T-channels all along where I have stuff mounted so that I can adjust the height, I can adjust the angle. There's a lot more adjustability to the Extrusion Overland rack than the RCI one. Pretty much what you see on the RCI rack as it sits right here, that's pretty much what you get. And for most folks, I think it would serve well. I think when you're looking at the RCI rack, let's go ahead and pull up how much the RCI rack is. So the RCI rack on Stage 3 Motorsports is $800. Now, before we start talking about the prices of Extrusion Overland, because it is highly competitive with the RCI rack, and if you are in between the RCI rack, if you're wanting to purchase the RCI rack, you highly need to review and look at Extrusion Overland for your new rack system, because it is highly competitive and it's affordable. The design is better. Just everything overall, it caters to someone that wants to put accessories on their rack system. But before we go into that, let's talk about some of the other racks that are out there really quick. So one, I'm going to show a picture of the Lightner rack. Lightner rack is really nice because, well, I'm going to tell you why I didn't go with the Lightner rack is the height. The height of the Lightner rack is one of the biggest factors that I didn't want anything that was really extremely high, because I'm not a fan of how tents look on really high racks. That kind of goes back to the plus of Extrusion Overland, is you're not locked into like 1 or 2. It's fairly customizable as far as the height that you want. Their standard heights are, I think, 12 and 15, I believe. I could be wrong. You'll have to check their website. I'm getting a 14. I requested a 14-inch height rack. It is not as tall as the 18-inch from RCI, and it's a couple inches taller than this one. Just from having the RCI 12 for a year or so has made me want to get a little bit higher as far as the rack goes on the height itself. With that being said, this is the Lightner rack. The pros are they have a lot of accessories like the boxes and things, but the price is right here, and it is very high in price. Not that it's a bad rack system, it's just the buy-in is much higher than I think what racks should be. As far as, you know, if you're just wanting to get into the hobby, I think you're looking at the $1,000 or less price point. Now the other rack I'm going to show you here, it's the Z Rhodes. The Z Rhodes rack is a pretty decent rack. I haven't seen one in person, but it's interesting because it's got the flip out side panels, and it's got the fog light pods, which the fog light pods are a really nice touch, although I wouldn't want to aim my fog lights that way. And this is the price of that rack as well, so it's up there as well, and that's why I never really went with it. It didn't compel me to get rid of my RCI rack and pay almost double the price to replace it with something else. The other thing that is making me move to the Extrusion Overland rack are the accessories. So take a look at this. This is a schematic drawing of an accessory that's going to be coming out for the Extrusion Overland racks. Now this is for the Ranger, this is for Tacoma, for the Ram. If you have an Extrusion Overland rack, you're going to be able to use something like this. It's a slide out that goes above the bed height, and you could put boxes on it and you could slide it out. I cannot wait to run this. I think I am going to go with a tonneau cover as well eventually, just to protect our stuff on longer trips, to lock things up. I'm super excited to try that out. So I didn't want to make this like a crazy 20-minute video of me rambling on about why I'm getting rid of the RCI rack. But one of the biggest things that stood out to me when I met John with the Xtrusion Overland rack on his Ranger, when I gave him the Adelleaf, I asked him, I was like, hey, I'm really tempted to move rack systems now that I've seen this one in person. And he was telling me the price, and the price was really, really good. So I reached out to the owner of Extrusion Overland, and we got to talking. And one of the biggest things that struck me, and being around the Mustang stuff for 12, 13 years, you've got companies that make parts to sell them, to make money off of them, and they don't really seem to care about the community. They don't seem to care about customer feedback. They just want to sell parts. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But the smaller companies that tend to spend more time in their engineering, that tend to spend more time listening to their customer base on what they want based on when they go out, what would you like on a rack system, and can you make it for me? That's the type of company that Extrusion Overland really, and I don't want to sound like a commercial, but like I was super impressed talking to the owner, because he seems like one of us that, we go travel, we take our trucks out, we go take our families, we try to get away from the everyday, and we all work hard for our money. And when we put something on our truck, we rely on it. But it's also, to me, a rack isn't a install it, leave it, and forget it. I'm always thinking of the next way to make our trips a little easier, a little more convenient. Whether it be, I'm looking to put a certain type of box on the rack that houses an air compressor, or maybe a shower solution eventually. I'm super limited without, I'm not a fab shop, and RCI seems to have no interest in expanding their rack to allow for different accessories. In fact, I'm just telling you guys, RCI didn't really seem too hyped on anything Ranger related. They work with their Tacoma folks, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or they didn't really seem to care about any type of feedback, which is the complete opposite of Extrusion Overland. So yeah, it arrives tomorrow. I'm recording this video on a Thursday night. It comes in tomorrow, Friday at some point. I'm taking the truck to Trevor, my buddy Trevor, his shop, to get an alignment done. We're getting an oil change. She's due for an oil change, getting an alignment, and we're looking over the truck to make sure everything is healthy. It's just kind of a little checkup that I do every few months. Once I get near the oil change, we're rotating the tires. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so excited to show you guys the new rack and why I'm excited to have it on my truck moving forward. If you have any questions on Extrusion Overland, toss them at the bottom or give them a message on Instagram. Here's their Instagram again. Give them a shout. I might make a video tomorrow. We're definitely going to be installing the rack on Saturday. I'll try to get video of that. I'm going to get Julie probably to record that while we install it. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be like a high of 40. Today was really nice. It was like close to 60. So I was able to get outside and do some things. But yeah, if you have any questions or, anything you're wanting to see on the rack, this is the price that it starts at. And that alone should pique your interest. And, if you're stuck on getting a specific type of rack, think about it. Check out their website below in the description, and continue to watch my videos. I appreciate everybody that watches my videos, and I see a certain amount that aren't subscribed to me. And you know, I'm not a YouTuber for a living. I do these videos for fun, and I try to give you guys feedback based on my experience and what I prefer. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and leave a comment below if there's anything specific that you'd like to see. If not, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.